we were doing these remote meetings, we could just dispense with the pledge. So Tasia, if you'd go ahead and do a roll call.
Hold on a second, Lori. Matt, are we up and running?
Yep, I just started it.
Okay, you got to start over. You just started it.
Okay, Tasia, would you do a roll call to start the meeting, please?
Yep. Bruce Belargin.
Here.
Katie Thermos.
Here.
Bob Gunther.
Here.
Patty Jo Forsberg.
Here.
Catherine Cranston.
Here.
Lori Belargin.
Here.
Roxanne.
Here. Okay, our district mission: together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. If you just take a quick look at the core values and protocol reminders, and then I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mark, did you want to make?
Yeah, I didn't hear the second there, but yeah, I'd like to withdraw that item with Jamie Wendt. We didn't realize that she was on a one-year contract. She is on a teacher contract, and we were going to reassign her into the JK position there. But since it is a one-year contract, we have to open that position up. And so Jody's got the layout of the plan and that, so you'll be seeing that come, the results of that process at one of our next board meetings. So if we can remove that, that would be great.
So Tasia, can you remove that from the document at this time?
Yeah.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then we can go ahead with the superintendent's report, please, Mark.
Okay, a few updates and different things that I think we'll dive deeper into in some upcoming work sessions, but more so just as kind of a heads up what's going on around the school here. The first one is summer school and Spartan Kids Club. So with governor's order, which I'll talk about a little bit here, it's kind of shaping up that we may be able to run a face-to-face summer school in that proposed end of July, August time. We're kind of holding our breath, but it's looking a little bit better. And Spartan Kids Club will be starting the first week of July as usual, as it has been in the past, and they can hold up to 100 kids. So that'll be up and running there also. We're a little bit about summer school now. We put this 2-week session in, and we have 45 middle school kids. That's about 10% of the middle school that have signed up for these 2 weeks. And we have about 130 elementary school kids, which is roughly around 20% for these 2 weeks. We're kind of curious. I guess the question is if we want to run something in June, if we want to throw the registration out there and see what kind of numbers we get, or do we want to give the kids that time off with the idea that we're coming back with something, whether it's face-to-face or virtual, in August? That's kind of the discussions we're having right now. With when we look back at the virtual learning we did, from when we were shut down to May 8th, we came out of the chute really hot. We had really good attendance for the first week or so, but the last 2 weeks it dropped off to very dismal. We guesstimate that overall we probably had 50% attendance during that time. And again, that's just roughly what we talked about today. And again, the last couple of weeks it really fell off. So if students or parents are getting tired of it, we don't know, but we'd sure like to offer the opportunity if you think it's worth it for June. But for sure, we need to concentrate on some form of summer school in that end of July and August, kind of prepping for what's going to happen in the fall, which again, we have no clue, what's with that. And I'll talk about that a little bit. So that's a little overview of what's happening with summer school. Any comments on that piece?
Well, I do. This is just my personal opinion, but if we think we can do some real in person, then I don't think we need to worry about offering in June. But I guess I'd like to have Pam and Sarah Eichten weigh in on that, and there wouldn't hurt to send out an email survey. I don't want people to just go on my opinion.
Pam, Sarah, do you have anything?
Hi, everybody. Did I pop up?
Yep, you're
right. Hey, good. Okay. With it being 10%, I will talk with Diane Slimmick, who's doing the middle school portion, to see how her engagement was with that. I know that toward the end of the school year, going, it was getting hard on everybody involved. I wouldn't just say our students, but our teachers were really feeling that strain as well. So, we did have some kids that reappeared at the end that we hadn't seen for a while. So it was kind of a mixed bag. Some came out hot and fell off. Some kind of just rode the wave the whole time. And others were like, whoa. And then they kind of came in at the end. So, it's kind of hard because we didn't take daily attendance or anything like that. But 45 kids in the middle school, 10%. I know we usually have far more than that on a face-to-face. So if we're able to offer a face-to-face, I'd rather do it July and August than do June. But that's where I'm coming from, Pam. I don't know if you feel differently.
No, I totally agree with the same thinking. The face-to-face, me too, I think is going to be a really good gauge as to what fall might look like and how many parents are willing to kind of jump back in. I've had a few parents reach out saying they're not quite sure what, do we know what fall is going to be like? And I think parents are either going to be super excited to send kids back and get them involved in a face-to-face summer school, or stepping back. But I think it's a kind of nice way to take the temperature of how people are feeling about coming back to school and such in July face-to-face. I also haven't been able to connect with Papin today. I know 130 are registered. I'm not quite sure what attendance, like how it rolled out, what attendance was like today, or how this week's going to play out, because it may seem, if it really does seem well attended or more people, have more interest, we might want to continue to do both. Kind of depends.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to the Tristans tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do with some type of survey or what have you. I guess it's a combination of looking how the numbers really come through with this 2-week session, and then what we think about doing another 2-week piece in June. So I'll move that way. I'm taking the feeling is that we have people out there that want something. If it's feasible, we can offer it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'd like to see us try. Mm-hmm.
And Mark, I have a question about how summer school attendance is going to work. I know in the past, our dollars that we got from the state was based on very detailed attendance reports every single day. So this 2 weeks that we're doing the virtual summer school right now in May, will the teachers be taking daily attendance so we get that state funding?
Yeah, so we did receive some guidelines from DPI, but there is still some flexibility within that, and so we're still working out how we're going to, they give us some broad parameters, and we're going to try to meet them the best we can. But they're not as, let's say, tight as they have been in the past, because that was a very established program, and now they know we're trying to do the best we can. So I think I remember the comment from Dave was, we like the vagueness of it also. So we'll get that figured out with the funding piece there. But just knowing that we're going to get some reimbursement, and again, even if we weren't, the cost isn't that significant, where it's an opportunity, it's an offering to the community. So it's if we can be help there, that's the way we've approached it. So we'll move forward with seeing what we can offer in June then. The next thing I had on here, the governor's order, as you know, the courts overruled the governor's orders, and except for everything with schools. We are still shut down from offering any face-to-face instruction, what have you, until after July or June 30th. And and this is again just my guess of what's happening here. I think we'll be in July ready to offer some type of drive-in style commencement exercise. That's what my gut is telling me. I put in a call to Scott Knutson. He hasn't been able to get back to me yet, and I'm sure he's busy at this time. But I need to get him and the county health department on board to get their blessing as we move forward. And as you know, this whole thing is changing again every week. I'm sure county health or state health will be coming out with some guidelines also. It seems like every week we get some different guidelines on how we can do things, but they are loosening up a bit. So we'll just keep you on up to date with that as we move forward. But our hope is to have some type of formal graduation rather than virtual. I think those kids deserve it, but we have to do it within reasonable precautions too. Item 3 is the construction update. We had a POC meeting just now from 5 to 6:30 here, and Bob and Bruce are in on that, and so I'd ask them to jump in here at any point in time. But looking at the different projects, the big thing hanging out there is a roundabout, and we will have for our work session on June 1st, we will have cost estimates that are pretty solid for that to bring to the board. Let's see, we go through every building and the project and what's happening, and right now the project is on track. We're kind of a little bit ahead because of the early start, and most of the unforeseens, I guess, have been found at this point in time. Bruce, Bob, do you have anything to explain there for this?
No, the big update was they're still on schedule. Obviously, they're ahead. They don't see any delays coming forward from COVID or anything else. The numbers wise, the contingency is spent right now. We have $570,000 left in contingency. That's including pending items. They go through and make sure they have all the items as we asked for. They showed all those items on the list. So we started with 1.2 million. We have 570,000 projected left. And we will, once we do the roundabout, we'll do a change order, kind of for those items that we already approved for like the elementary school or the middle school bathrooms and some of those other items that were big hits to our contingency. But it's typical to use a substantial amount of contingency and then that tapers off. So, and for how quick of a hitting project this is, there's nothing really out of the ordinary dollars wise that we saw on that sheet either, on their cost log sheet. But that was all the update I had.
Bob, anything you want to throw in there?
No, unless anyone's got any questions. I think Bruce pretty much covered it. So,
any questions regarding construction? One comment. Before the June 1st work session, I will set up a time if the board would like to take a tour of the buildings. The construction will be done for the day, and we can start like an hour beforehand and go over and take a walk through the middle school and the high school. I think it'd be very interesting for you to see what's going on over there. Okay, no further questions. I'll jump into item 4, which is the upcoming board meetings. And we're putting together a list of different, this is an item for the work session, but just to start thinking of what board meetings we have to move due to concerts and different things. We do this every year. The other piece is there, if you want to move to face-to-face meetings in June, or if you want to stay virtual. That was a discussion item for you folks, and then to see what you want to do as we move forward here.
So Catherine, do you have an opinion?
Well, surprise, surprise. Yes, I do. I would certainly think we need to continue to social distance, but I think that we could sit far enough apart. I mean, we don't have to be like the bar in Maryland where they have inner tubes, but I think we could be far enough apart that we could have a meeting. And the public, I think there's a couple different ways to handle that. I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm thinking the public could still comment via ahead of time, or they could put them email right at that time, or maybe we could have them outside come in one at a time. And I mean, we could still stay under 10 people if that is still the law. I don't know what the law is, but I think we could manage it and still have public comment. I just think it's so much more valuable to be in person. But that's, and if people aren't comfortable with that, well, why couldn't they conference call into the main meeting if they like we used to do before we were doing virtual? That way we could accommodate everybody, but that's just I'm only one.
Roxanne, how about you?
I agree with Catherine, everything she said.
Okay. Patty Jo?
Same. I feel like there's enough room in there that we could be socially distanced while still having our meetings in person.
Bruce?
We could just go like Menards. We all have masks on. I mean, we're all keeping each other safe for face covers. They're not masks, I was told today. So.
Or we could wear masks and make it fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Bob, what are your thoughts?
I'm fine with all the suggestions. I'll just wait as we get more information too. So proceed on with like Catherine said, and I think we have enough room in there, so I'm fine with that.
Katie?
Well, I agree. I think we have to, of course, play it by ear. I know that might be tricky, just in case, there's an outbreak somewhere. But yeah, is it possible to do both? So you could have some who want to be at the meeting and others who want to, I don't know. I do believe the room is large enough for all of us, but.
Mark, is that something that you could ask Matt if someone did not want to be at the meeting in person, if there is a way to have them join the meeting and be on the smart board maybe? I don't know.
Well, here's what I thought, Lori. Knowing that the consensus is that we want to meet in person, I'll put together a set of protocols as far as how we're going to do it. And, the 10-person piece is a guideline. And the thought was that, we'd have the board, myself and Tasia in that room. And then if we have any reports that, like Dave with business or Trish has to come in, they can just wait out in the other, in the offices there. And then when we need to bring them in. So we'll adhere to that, approximately 10-person type thing. But let me do some work on that piece with the simultaneous, if someone doesn't want to come in, what have you. But we'll see what the next week holds, but I'll set up those parameters and send them out to everyone as far as, if we want to do masks and what have you. So.
All right, sounds good. Anybody have any further questions on that topic?
Lori, I just have a question. Maybe I misunderstood, but if the schools are shut down until June 30th, is it okay for us to meet in person in June?
You can still have employees, and we can still conduct business. There are boards around that have been meeting,
Okay.
and that it's just the kids, some districts have had teachers in still, and that, so we're okay that way.
Okay.
The last thing I have on here is fall startup, and your guess is as good as mine as far as what's going to happen in the fall. But just to let you know that we're preparing and starting to talk about all different types of scenarios. I believe I can't remember the date that we're meeting. We're doing it all day, but I think it's towards the end of June, kind of a work session with the administration. By the middle to end of June, we're going to know how the rest of the summer is shaping up and what the fall is going to look like. And we've got several scenarios that we want to play out as what's going to happen. Are we going to have school as usual? Are we going to have alternating days? Are we going to be virtual? Split shifts, dual platform. There's all these things that, could be on the table, but it's one of these that as we go through the summer, you're coming down a funnel where some options are not viable or some options are more viable, and we'll concentrate on those. But we figure the middle of June is where we really have to focus on what's going to happen. Make some good guesses on what's going to happen, for reentry and that. So just to let you know that, what we're doing there. And Emily, Nurse Emily is working on her side, just keeping us up to speed with, what the recommendations are from, state health and what have you. So we've got all of our information current as we move forward. And I'll constantly update you over the next few weeks as we go through this with the information that I have and what other schools are doing. As I mentioned before, I'm on virtual meetings with the CISA schools at least once or twice a week, and the MBC schools. Anytime something rattles down in Madison, we have a virtual meeting to understand what the ramifications are of that. So, and then again, whatever comes out of Madison one day usually takes about 3 or 4 days to get clarification on the different points that we have to deal with. So just to keep you up on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have any further questions for Dr. Bezic? All
Well,
right.
good luck to all of you going forward in all your planning.
For sure.
Oh,
Mark, I just checked my email again and I haven't gotten any requests for anybody wishing to speak. Have you?
I will go into mine right now and check that out. I have nothing.
All right, then we can go on to the advanced operations, spring athletics activities compensation. The agenda says discussion/action. So I'd like to ask people's thoughts on this and then entertain a motion. And Katie, you'd been asking for information about this since March, I think. So would you like to offer your thoughts?
you mean like not a motion, just
Your thoughts?
discussion or
Yes.
whatever? Sure. Well, I appreciated receiving the information that I got, and that most of you got, and from a couple of coaches and certainly from Trent, especially in the weekend update. There was a lot more data in there. So thank you, Trent. And I really have given this a lot of thought. And, I look at all the work we as a board did over the past couple of years, especially in trying to implement new wage grids on behalf of all the employees, and to have new hires when they come in, to have good process. And in my head, this is just another situation that's arising that involves people's pay, that we should be careful about. And I do have an outline of a plan of how I think we can fairly and reasonably compensate the work done, not just in this springs, and I should amend that to the 2019-20, because we had the activities in there as well for the year round, this whole school year, in the documentation we were provided. And so I'm hoping I can bring that forward and we can have I guess when the time is right, and have a good discussion of that. But I do want to clarify a couple of things. I want to clarify that when we as a body approved the continued payment of salaries to our hourly employees at the outset of the shutdown, it was to prevent them from losing, I think, what we can assume is their primary source of income. And that is not the same as what we're being asked to look at in this particular situation. So we're looking at these stipend agreements. In my opinion, they deserve their own discussion. And, it's a heavy cost. $73,000 is a lot of money. And we as board members know that our budgets are going to be suffering the next couple of years because of the shutdown. And we know that our taxpayers, a lot of them have been laid off and had their businesses significantly reduced. And we have an obligation, in my opinion, to all of the different people, from taxpayers, parents, employees, and vendors. I mean, that is our role. So I just know that we as a board have worked hard. I believe in fairly compensating for this, but I can't support 100%. But I do have an idea that I hope we'll consider later. Sorry, thanks, that was long.
Bob, how about you?
A little bit of different take. The extracurriculars isn't just about a coach or an advisor showing up to the practices or the meets or the events. It's normally a year-round process with them, with their play productions or their athletics. What have it. There's that year-round commitment. And I think when you start doing some math, it's not a whole lot of money when it gets boiled down to the dollar per hour situation. So, I understand everybody has different opportunities. They chose this to compensate their salary, and also for the opportunities for the kids. Because if there wasn't the coach, or therefore there wasn't an advisor, that event wouldn't be taking place. So I'm for full compensation. $73,000, absolutely. It's a lot of money. It was budgeted for. This would be something we won't be talking about had this not been COVID. So you're looking at that mindset. It's not any fault of theirs, and it's not any fault of ours. So it's situational. And so with that said, I would support a full compensation.
Bruce, what are your thoughts?
I agree in the full compensation. I've coached at Somerset, and I know how much extra time goes into it with youth programs and everything else. Everyone knows the time that they put in, and Trent outlined it exactly what they do. And it's not just the time they put in, but I mean, we talk about keeping coaches, and it is difficult to keep good coaches and to keep coaches. And with 14 of these coaches in the school district, I mean, that's what we want. And this is just another incentive to keep those coaches and to thank those coaches for doing this job when it is tough and it is a lot of time and it isn't always, without, sacrifices that they give. So I'm 100% for paying these coaches, because it is such a positive experience for students and they need this. So I'm fully supportive of paying them. But Katie, I'm not against listening to what you have for future years. I know we could have something set up. I think at this time this year, it should be approved, and then look at a plan maybe in the future.
Okay. Roxanne, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually wrote something because I'm not great at off the cuff. I promise it's not long. It's just a couple short paragraphs. Is it okay if I read it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate, first of all, I really want to thank Trent Probst and Dave Gerberding for helping me obtain the information I wanted to make an educated decision. So I just want to, and Dr. Bezick as well, thank you guys very much for your patience and giving me what I needed. I appreciate your assistance in helping me understand the off-season work performed by advisors and coaches and the financial impact of paying them as budgeted. I'm a huge supporter of advisors and coaches, and your value is immeasurable to me and our community. And to the advisors and coaches, I appreciate your patience while I took the time to do my research and make an informed decision. We are so fortunate to have such qualified and dedicated advisors and coaches in Somerset. My hope is we will retain you in the coming years, which will likely be full of challenges and uncertainty. So the combination of a multitude of duties already performed by our advisors and coaches, not only in your activities and sports, but also following up on students' academic progress, also the substantial savings due to not having a season, and the fact that following through with budgeted payments to advisors and coaches will not negatively impact this fiscal year's budget. Those key things helped me to confidently make a decision. And I really did delve into things with Trent, and Dave Gerberding was kind enough to sit down with me to look at financial reports. So just know that I did that research in making my decision. So both in gratitude for your work throughout the year and following through with the approved budgeted funding for your stipends this fiscal year for your service, I support paying our advisors and coaches 100% as budgeted and committed.
Okay. Patty Jo, how about you?
I had to unmute myself there for a second. I also want to thank all the coaches. I come at this both sides because I do feel that compensation needs to be made, but I am the parent of student athletes and saw directly how much they were contacted by their coach or connected with. And based on that, I didn't see what everyone has been talking about. I've spoken with other student athletes, and a lot of them have said that they haven't had the contact that it's been told. And so with that, with hearing from the actual athletes saying they haven't had much contact with their coaches or they've been working on their own with no advice from their coach, I would gladly support a 50% or 75%, but I'd have a hard time with 100% because the nuts and bolts of the season, most of the seasons didn't even happen. And I understand there's work beforehand. I completely do. But if you were to get hurt at the beginning of the year and you didn't get to coach your season, I don't know if Somerset would still pay that if they weren't able to. And this would be similar to that situation because no one foresaw this. But I am open to anything, but I have a hard time swallowing the 100% due to the fact that I didn't see the participation that I expected.
Catherine?
Well, first of all, Roxanne, that was spot on. Absolutely. I could not have said that more eloquently myself. I'm coming at it from a coaching standpoint, having done a lot of varsity coaches. And the analogy that I can put out there is, we work pretty much year round on supporting youth athletics. We work year round on keeping kids, lifting weights, working out. And just like the person that's doing the play, they're not just doing the play. And in my mind, our baseball season was the play. Our track season was the play. And just because the play doesn't happen doesn't mean that all the work around it didn't happen. So I support 100% payment. And I guess my number one concern was budget, of course. But even on top of that, my most important concern is what's best for kids. Is what's best for kids to show and support our coaches so that they continue throughout the summer, throughout the fall, to support kids. I don't want to give a message to the coaches that we're not going to support them. And I want them to go full bore to support our kids. And so for me, that's the bottom line. What's best for kids?
Okay. So this has, I've spent a lot of time emailing Trent as well, because this has been a huge struggle for me also. And I understand that our staff consistently go way above and beyond basic requirements, and I want to show my appreciation for them. However, I'm also responsible to taxpayers of the school district, many of whom are currently unemployed and having difficulty getting through to government officials for assistance. I'm also quite concerned about the budget repercussions for the 2021 school year due to revenue losses in the state. And personally, I would prioritize the base wage of all employees. So this has been a struggle, but I am certainly open to whatever motion comes forward. So I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the full compensation of the activities and coaches. I guess I had it up on my phone, but
I'll second that.
You know what I mean?
That's Catherine.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to say when we talk about what's best for the students, let's just make sure that we're looking at least a year down the road at our budgets, because this is going to have a devastating impact on what we're going to get from the state. And like I said, I'm all for paying for the work that is done, but you are also setting a precedent, board, if you go in this fashion, to do the same thing for fall. And I'm sorry if you think that it would be fair for this to happen in the fall and us to say, okay, we're not going to pay you 100%. So I object to us not having a more thoughtful approach to this.
I agree with Katie that we definitely have to come up with a plan starting with fiscal year July 1 going forward. Definitely.
How is that equitable? How is that equitable if we don't give everybody else going forward 100% of all of their letters of assignment? How is that equitable internally?
Okay, just make sure I'm understanding you correctly. What I'm talking about is this fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. What I'm getting at is just completing our obligations from the approved budget from September on paying our coaches according to what was budgeted in September. That fiscal year ends on June 30th. A new fiscal year starts on July 1. We're going to have a complete, huge discussion on how we approach this type of thing going forward, because this is a complete new ball game for us, for having to make that decision. If we pay our coaches through the end of this fiscal year, we will have we will have met our obligations to our coaches through this fiscal year. I'm just talking about this year. Hopefully
Right,
we
but
can
they
make,
sign those agreements before we pass our budget for next year. So the same thing will be at play. I'm just making sure that you understand that.
And Katie, Trent also stated they're looking at alternate, information that they know they're going to have to make a difference. And I think the difference will be is that the seasons had already started, or they were a week or two from starting, and this just popped up and no one's going to school anymore. And we might end the season, we might not come back. And I think in the fall, obviously we don't know if what's going to happen, but everyone is on board with something. There's going to be some type of restrictions. And I think it'd be almost more understanding that, hey, we have to make a little bit of adjustments here.
I mean, you haven't even heard what I had been.
I gotta.
But we just need to approve this and move past this, as we've held these people in limbo for long enough. And I think it's not fair to us or all the activities people to keep holding this over their head for an indefinite amount of time while we discuss further.
Doing that?
Is it limbo? Oops, sorry. Is it limbo if they weren't supposed to get compensated until June anyways? I mean, we're not expecting it until June, so I don't feel like we're holding anything in limbo per se, because they're not expecting it right now. But I do feel the thoughtful conversation is necessary. Agree or disagree and different. It's not up until June that they're going to be compensated for it. So this conversation is important.
Call for a vote.
What did I do? Mark.
Thank you. Just a couple of thoughts here. And first of all, every one of you has done your research on this. You've done your homework, and that's fantastic. I made a recommendation a while back, but it had a caveat with it. And I think, Bob addressed part of it here, or maybe Bruce did, about, this thing came up on us and we had no clue what was happening, if we were even going to have a season. Coaches were carrying on as if, there's still hope, and then the rug got pulled out of them. But, staying in line with the conference, and, I always say that's why we belong to a conference, so we can, kind of get through some of these things together. But the caveat I had was, if you do go with 100% compensation, you should also put something in there about how we're going to deal with next fall, because depending on what happens, we may not have fall sports seasons. That could very well happen. And I don't want to set a precedent, like Katie said, because we get caught into that also. But I would say, whatever you do tonight, make sure the caveat is that, we are looking at some other structure. And I can't tell you what that structure is, but all the other scoops are looking at the same thing on how to address this issue come the fall. And that's something we could meet at one of our next work sessions on for next year. But take care of 1920 first, and then we'll bring it up, and I'll have more information for you on how we move forward. So just my 2 cents.
Does anybody want to offer any other opinions or discussion?
Well, I will say this. I did request from Dave to know what happens with any of these letters of assignment, because it applies to a lot more positions than just coaches and advisors. We have all kinds of positions where we have these letters of assignment. And within those letters of assignment, as I'm sure you all read, is the part that says, this is no guarantee. That's not my main point. My main point is we need to understand, and there has had to have been, I wanted information on how other letters of assignment have been handled by the district when other people have left before completing their assignments. And I asked specifically for the information on how any of these letters of assignment would be affected. What I received back was a response about how they didn't think that they had any coaches or advisors, but that wasn't my question. My question was, any of these letters of assignment, how have they been treated in the past? And I followed up, but I have not received a response. So I'm wondering if I could get that response. And then you can go ahead and vote. But I think you need to know some of these important things, because I'm pretty sure that they don't pay out 100%. So we are carving out a very special situation. And then won't repeat it next year.
Dave?
Would you like me to comment, Lori?
Well, it looked like you were ready to, are you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Katie, from your communications today, you were asking about stipend agreements. And so that was, I think, the confusion where Rod and Jody and I discussed all the stipend agreement history that we had. I didn't know you were looking for any LOA agreement history. But in those cases, that's not a guaranteed annual amount. That's generally an hourly rate.
And
so
what happens if they leave?
people would be paid for the work that they did.
Right. Okay, that's all I wanted. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All right, then I'm keeping track here to try to move it around the table who votes first. So Patty Jo, I would like to do a vote on the motion on the table, which is to pay out 100% on the spring coaching and advising.
No.
Roxanne,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Katie,
No.
Bob,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and myself is no. So I believe it passes.
I'll make a motion that we approve 4B and 4C as recommended.
Can you put in the dollar amounts too, please, Bruce?
Yeah. Approve 4B in the payment of Mark and Johnson for $1,380,076. And item 4C, payment of Wold for $19,141.73.
I'll second.
Was that Katie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Discussion? I believe it was in the Wold invoice that part of the bill that was supposed to be to the elementary school said high school on it. And I believe Dave was checking into getting that fixed. The amounts are all the same. It's just that only one of those invoices was for the high school and the other one was for the elementary school. Anything further? All right, then, Catherine.
What?
Your vote.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I missed it because Mark was laughing.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, Patty Jo.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Roxanne,
Yes.
and Bruce.
Yes.
And myself, yes. So motion passes unanimously. The consent agenda is next. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved. Katie.
I second.
Patty Jo? Any discussion? All right, then Roxanne? How would you vote?
Are you talking about just on the consent agenda?
Yep. The motion was made to pass all the items on the consent agenda.
Okay, yep, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. And Bruce
Yes.
and Bob,
Yes.
Catherine,
What? No, just kidding. Yes.
Patty Jo,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and myself, yes. General information, June meetings, the 1st and the 15th. And I believe we'll be getting some information, but right now it looks like we can expect to probably meet in person, right?
Yeah, unless something disastrous happens between now and then, so.
Okay. All right, so once around the table, let's see. Patty Jo, how about you?
I don't have much. Thank
All
you.
right. Roxanne?
Nothing for me right now, thank you.
Uh-huh. Bob?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Katie?
Well, looks like I'm going to be the one this week. I do have a few things. Sorry. So the RFP purchasing policy, you know, the RFP went out before we approved it, and it was over 10,000 or expected to be over 10,000. I'm not sure how we tighten up the controls on some of these things between job postings and, you know, the RFP process, because the board talks about these things every year. And then these things come up as just all of a sudden they're there. And I'm not sure how, because we have policies, we've got handbooks, we've got everything. And the board has discussed these topics several times. So I don't even know what I'm asking for, Mark, but.
We're gonna put it on the agenda for the work session because we
Okay.
need clarity too. And that's what I put in the weekend report, that I think we need to either adjust the policy so it's black and white, because right now the purchasing policy doesn't say anything about the board approving an RFP, but we have had RFPs that the board has approved before. So
no, we've had that discussion many times. So if it's not in the policy, then it should be.
but we never changed the policy. So
I got it.
So it's going to be on the work session for June, and the business department will be there too, because they're operating under one set of rules, and we're operating on another. So we just want to get on the same page. So that one will be on there.
Okay, then my only other question is, I'm hoping, because we had that $1 million separate referendum vote that was to go to capital and operations. And I'm wondering, I don't, if Dave is going to be presenting at our work session, I'm hoping that can be a part of the discussion, because I would like to see that accounted for separately. I have no idea where that.
Yeah, I would leave that up to Dave, but just in general, I believe that just goes right into our general fund. But Dave can address that, at the work session.
Yeah, nope, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Catherine?
Nothing.
And Bruce?
Mark, in the in the report, you talked about the fiber issues we have. Is this gonna drag on all summer? Do you know, or is this something that B&B is gonna get taken care of? So
Actually, that fiber link to the DO is supposed to be put in this week, and that'll connect that circle, and we should be good to go. They did connect from the old run, the one that was chewed through by the rodents, but we're still missing a beat here with it. We don't have full power through that, but until we get that loop from the elementary to the DO, and again, I think I just asked George about that, or Justin, and I think that was supposed to be put in this week. They're running fiber over, and that way we'll have a redundant system. We'll be coming from both ways, and believe me, we wanted it bad. We need it, so we're partially up and running right now, but that should be taking care of them.
All right. I just have a couple of items. I attended my first CISA meeting on Thursday and was sworn into office, and immediately learned that my seat for Somerset is up for re-election in June. So we'll see how that goes. The Somerset Scholarship Committee is working on the video for scholarship presentations. It is almost finished. Several of our sponsors did videos and submitted them, and it added a really nice touch to the video. We will be ready to go live May 31st, as Shannon talked about at our last meeting. And Catherine and I met between our work session and our regular session, and we've agreed that we're going to continue doing that so we can coordinate with each other and try to make the agendas and business of the district run very smoothly. And Mark and I also met, and we've been coordinating on Wednesday mornings and Friday mornings to try to get the agenda set. Friday morning, we also coordinated with Tasia to try to get our business running smoothly.
Thank you.
So if Mark, was there something else you wanted to add?
One last comment. Shannon, are you on here?
Yep, I'm here.
Would you tell the good news of what the high school received this week?
Yeah, so I got out a little bit of information on Facebook this week, celebrating two things. We received word that our girls and boys basketball team were academic all-state. So they are each one of 3 teams in our division that were recognized for their high GPA. And our girls team had the second highest in the state. So that was super exciting. Mm-hmm. And I received a letter this week from the College Board regarding our 2019 AP testing participation and performance. So we received an award from the state of Wisconsin. It's called the Pace Setter Award. Again, just recognizing the amount of kids that we have taking AP tests, number one. And then within those kids that are taking the test, recognizing their excellence on the test for 2019. So 2 cool things to be able to celebrate, that our kids are doing some really great things academically.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Shannon, those AP tests, that doesn't even count all of our students who are in the college and the schools classes.
Nope. So it's not any of our students that are in our U of M classes. This is just our AP classes for last school year. Who knows what's going to happen this year with the way that our students have had to take their AP tests. It's been quite, I would say, an experience, because a few of them have had to take it twice. Because the first time they took the test, there were some computer glitches and they couldn't submit their test. So some of them are having to take AP calculus and some of those tests actually for a second time. So whole nother conversation there. But as I said, just excited to be able to celebrate some great things that our students and staff are doing at the academic side.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved. Beat Catherine.
Second.
All right, motion made by Katie and second by Catherine. I'm assuming I don't have to do a roll call vote this time.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. See you
Thanks.
soon.
Have a nice night, guys.
Bye.